is the executive secretary of the National Media Commission. It's a constitutional body that ensures that our media space is properly sanitized. Mr. Sapon, you're welcome to Eyewitness News.
Thank you very much, Umar.
What has been the level, if there has been any, of involvement of NMC in the shutdown of the 4 stations in Boko?
Well, your question presumes that there's a public interest in the disclosure of the internal workings between NMC and NCA. I would think that we will serve the public interest better if we don't get into that. But
I introduced you to say that you are the constitutional body mandated to sanitize the media space. And if
Yes.
the NCA says that it went to shut down because those 4 media houses were an affront to the media space, you, the institution that has that mandate, if you have been involved or otherwise, it would be good that you let us know. Full disclosure, don't you think? So we can celebrate you or question you.
Well, celebration speaks to the ego, but substantively, you would recall that for the past 2 or so years, we've publicly raised concerns about the situation in Boko, and we've had calls to caution all the radio stations a number of times. I recall that in my last statement, which was in October of 2022, we had indicated that if the situation that we're observing continued, we may take action without any further notice to any of the stations. I had an interview around that time with Isrado on Asase Radio, where I publicly said for the first time that in dealing with the crisis situation in Boko and perhaps for the rest of the country, everything was on the table. And I recall indicating that closure itself was not far from contemplation. So essentially, this is where we are. And I also want you to recall that NMC, NCA, GJ, GIBA, and we had the support of or the cooperation of society groups, including Media Foundation. We've had a series of discussions about the menace that we were all perceiving in Boko. And so I would rather want us to look at the situation now within that further context.
So you will not say to me whether or not NMC had any hand in what happened?
I would not disclose the internal workings of the 2 institutions within the framework of our cooperation. And you should understand that this is a matter of principle, because the moment I open that, I breach that principle, and then every time that we have to work together, that becomes an issue of public communication. Okay. We do not think that is how we want to proceed.
So the reason I'm asking this is for 2 points. The first point is that in the past, anytime NMC intended to take action on a radio station or a media house, you publicized communication you've had with them, asking them to desist from doing program A or B, and telling them, the last one being Onya FM, I recall, saying to them that if they do not comply, you would be forced to, take the punitive action against them. So we do know that in the case of NMC, before you bless any such action, you would have done communication extensively. I spoke to one of the owners of the 4 stations. He just said to me there was no communication prior. They just came Rambo style and disconnected them. The second reason is that groups like Media Foundation for West Africa are saying that the procedure for the shutdown was unlawful, was not right, and is an affront to the media priority that we have. It is important that at National Media Commission, we know what your position is. Did the NCA err in doing what it did, or you are giving the NCA your blessings for doing what it did?
So, Omar, again, let's get back to first principles. Principle number 1 is the question whether or not we have given adequate notice. I have indicated to you that in the past 2 years, we've been engaging the stations and we have spoken publicly. And I think that constitutes enough notice. On the comments raised by the Media Foundation for West Africa, I think there is a lesson in there for all of us going forward. My understanding of it is that in future, any communication, they would require that the same questions that you are asking us about the internal workings between NMC and NCA be part of the communication. The propriety of it, we are ready to examine together and to see what is the best way forward going into the future.
Moving forward, what's your comment on the shutdown of the 4 radio stations and other issues related to broadcasts that would harm the peace?
I think that we can only repeat what we have said repeatedly. We are committed to protecting every journalist, every media house that is doing journalism. But we are also determined to clear off all the megaphones of war from the society. I have heard calls recently to indicate that if you look at the Constitution, the freedom that we were granted was to serve the public interest, not to destroy the society. And the Commission takes that very seriously. It is possible for all of us to work towards peace and progress and development. In doing that, as Citi FM and the TV do, we can ask all the critical questions and encourage all the robust discussions. But violence, war, cannot be part of the industry.
And because we are in an election year, I'll just ask you to make a comment on that as well. The NCA says what is happening in Baku was because of security. But of course, we have an election coming up too. I just wanted you to maybe make a statement in regards to that, since we are in an election year, before you leave us.
I thank you most sincerely for that opportunity. And all that I would say is that we've done it together as media. From 2000 coming, we have been the mainstay for all the credible elections that we've had. Let us work together to secure credible elections and peaceful development in Ghana. I said this quietly. Those who think otherwise and want to use their radio stations or TV stations as channels of distraction will have themselves to blame.
Thank you so much for speaking to us, sir.
I'm extremely grateful for the opportunity.
That's George Sapon. He's Executive Secretary of the National Media Commission.